sit back and relax, and we'll get this baby going. A good conversation always starts with perhaps where are we coming from, what are we bringing to the table, and in doing so, as a part of the theme of this and the sustainability fair outside, the question becomes, what is sustainability? And Mike, I want to start with you, and then we'll go through and we'll come back to it if we want to fill in some things as we go along.
Sounds good. Well, before I start on that, first, thank you all for coming to listen to us today. I think it's terrific that there's so many people here engaged by this issue. I would be remiss if I didn't address a little bit the circumstances that have surrounded this event, which I don't think we can let pass in silence. But one of the reasons we're doing a panel and not a conventional speech is that there was a real challenge to the university posed by a donor, and what is potentially a real threat to academic freedom. And as much as agriculture is what we want to talk about today, academic freedom undergirds the ability to have the kind of conversation about agriculture we want to have. And let me tie this back to sustainability. One of the things we understand from the science of ecology is that the best way to achieve resilience in any system is by diversity, biodiversity and intellectual diversity. And that the having a diversity of views on this campus, where, because universities are the place where these conversations should take place, without any kind of bullying, without any kind of threat, is critical to figuring out how to deal with the challenges we have. You could have a monoculture of a university, one that only tolerated one kind of thinking. And when the world changes, as it inevitably does, you would find yourself in serious trouble. But when you have a lot of different ideas, and they're all nurtured, and they're all brought into contact with one another, as we hope to do today, that is where you get the resources to withstand shocks to the system. And God knows there's shocks coming. And so let me just talk a little bit about sustainability in the agricultural format, because I really do believe it's connected. Sustainability is a complex concept in one way, but it's also very simple. A sustainable system is one that can go on indefinitely without destroying the conditions on which it depends, or without depending on conditions it can't depend on. So take, for example, fossil fuel. A system that is highly dependent on cheap oil may not be a sustainable system when oil prices go up. A system that depends on large quantities of free or cheap water has a problem when those situations change. So that sustainability is really it's an ideal, I think. I don't think there are any truly, well, there are sustainable systems. They're a forest, a prairie. I mean, these are sustainable systems. They can go on year after year. They don't need inputs. They don't destroy the conditions on which they depend. But as soon as we get involved and we have to change things to feed ourselves, we get into more complicated relationships. So it's a matter of degree, I would say. Now the question is this system we have sustainable today? Now, I just want to offer one little prop to tell you, where I think the problem is. I brought along something from, this will just take a moment, from McDonald's. This is a double quarter pounder with cheese. Those of you in front can probably smell it. Anyone's welcome to have it.
I read the students' minds.
Whoever asked the first question. And I've got some glasses here. Each of these glasses holds 6 ounces, okay? It takes a lot of oil to make a modern fast food hamburger. An astonishing amount of oil. And I did a little research to try to figure out just how much went into this. The oil comes in several different stages. The biggest part is probably the petroleum needed to create the fertilizer to grow the corn, which is the diet typically on these animals. But there's also the moving of that corn, the moving of the burger, the processing, you know, and getting it to a McDonald's near you. So, oil.
This is where the stage manager gets nervous.
6 ounces. 6 more ounces. 12. 18. 24. 26. That's a lot of oil to make a burger. And you have to ask yourself, is the system that produces that burger sustainable? That is the question. It's really chocolate syrup.
Oh. Thanks, Michael. Myra? Sustainability, as you define it.
Follow that.
Milk.
Yeah.
To me, sustainability is protecting and preserving our resources so that they're there for our children. You know, and I think what's really hard is that in this system that we live in, it feels almost impossible to me as a farmer and a manufacturer of a food product to not be consuming a lot of fossil fuels to get our food to market. And I think, you know, a big part of this conversation is the population that we're supporting now on this planet. And I think if you look at polyphase farms, these perfect systems that Michael talks about, I think that those little farms work well in a much less populated planet. But when New York City is our biggest market, and they don't have the ability to grow any fresh greens there for more than half the year. And we know that eating healthy organic food, organic produce, is a great thing for them to be eating versus eating this burger with how many ounces? 26 ounces of oil. So, you know, for our company, I mean, we feel that we have made great strides in terms of figuring out how to farm large scale successfully, organically, without all these synthetic inputs. And we work really hard to reduce our use of fossil fuels and water and a lot of non-renewable resources. And we've made some great strides, mostly with post-consumer recycled materials. We've switched to post-consumer recycled cardboard and post-consumer recycled plastic for our clamshells. We're the first company to do that. But we're still using a tremendous amount of resources. So, you know, I ask myself, am I leaving this planet better for future generations? I think in certain ways I am, you know, we are, and in certain ways we're not, and I don't know how to accomplish that.
And we'll come back to some of those challenges that as we look at sustainability. Garrett, as you define it.
Well, the concept of sustainability has been around a long time. We really only started to use the word really in the last 5 years. If you look in a dictionary, the definition is to provide nourishment for. And the second definition is to be able to prolong or continue. So basically, if you put it together, can you, in fact, provide nourishment for the foreseeable future? The word sustainability, unless you qualify it, means nothing, because it's just anything that you can keep going. So you have to put some words in front of it. And it's really interesting. There was a wonderful article by Liz Sloan in the last issue of Food Technology. And she cited 9 studies where they had actually gone out to people and said, do you use sustainability or green in making purchasing decisions? 54 to 82% of them said, yes, we do. They then asked, what does it mean? What does the word sustainability mean? 60% of them said, I really don't know. And so they said in many of these studies, well, what do you think it means? Of all the answers that were given, the number one answer was natural. Second was organic. Third was locally grown. Fourth was humanely treated. And then it got into small carbon footprint and so on. So as those of us who work in universities begin to tackle sustainability, we say there is a food supply sustainability, there is an agriculture sustainability, And I like the definition of the Pew Commission, who said, what does sustainability mean to animal agriculture? And the Pew Commission